Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. Liverpool saved it for late, but they opened off their Champions League campaign with a big win over PSG. How did they do it? Where did PSG go wrong? Don't worry, here at the interviews, we've got you covered. So on this edition of the interviews, we're going to break down how Liverpool beat PSG. So we get to Liverpool and PSG. Liverpool, PSG, and Napoli are the big teams in this group, so these games do matter. In today's video, we're going to break down what Liverpool did right in the first half, what PSG did right in the first half, and how PSG saved it for late to change the game, but ended up dropping all 3 points. So we do break it down first. We have to start with the lineup. Both sides playing in a 4-3-3. Liverpool starting with Daniel Sturridge up front. Roberto Firmino was not fit to play from the get-go, so that means Mane and Salah were out in wider areas. In midfield, Jordan Henderson came back into the starting XI, which means that Wijnaldum and James Milner played just ahead of him. Then we get to PSG, their star-studded trio in Cavani, Neymar, and Mbappe up front. Marquinhos slid back into midfield at the base, and just ahead of him up front was Rabiot and Angel Di Maria. When you think about PSG, they want Rabiot to be the box-to-box connector. They want Di Maria to carry it forward. But how can they get past that Liverpool press? Would PSG's players up front be able to track the runs of Robertson and Arnold if they did to look to get forward? And would Robertson and Arnold be that adventurous, knowing that Neymar and Mbappe were going to get forward and they could leave space in behind if they did push forward? First, we have to start with Liverpool. They were the home side. They went into halftime up 2-1, so we have to discuss what they did right. So when we get to what Liverpool did right, obviously we have to think about the press, how they defended without the ball. Liverpool 4-3-3, both teams kind of had the same idea on what they want to do without the ball. We saw Liverpool do this against Spurs over the weekend. When they drop off, they're kind of in that narrow box. They want the ball to be played into that midfield space. They want Rabiot, they want Di Maria to get the ball there so that they could ignite the press and start to get forward from that aspect. The thing about PSG here, they have the two center backs who are able to get the ball. They're allowed to get the ball. Liverpool's front three often interchange positions. Sometimes we saw Sturridge on the left, Mane up front. We saw them all interchange position, so that was key. One of the things here is that when you look at what Marquinhos is trying to do, trying to get on the ball, so they often had Sturridge cut it off. When Sturridge couldn't cut it off, or when he went to go press, they would have Marquinhos drop in. What happens here is that they kind of have two options here, and when Marquinhos dropping off a bit deeper, it doesn't really help the issue that PSG have, because if he does drop deeper and Sturridge goes, what happens here is that the two wide players tuck in, they have the fullbacks pushing out, and then they still have the spare man in midfield, so that never really worked out for PSG. So that was one issue. If they'd never pressed off and they had Marquinhos sitting off in midfield waiting for the ball, what happened there is that Mane and Salah were positioned to ensure that the fullbacks couldn't get on the ball. So that was another thing. In midfield, you have the midfield battle set up. Wijnaldum dealing with Rabiot. You have Milner dealing with Di Maria. They have that base there. If the shuttlers switched, it would be the same thing. Shuttlers on shuttlers. And like again, if Sturridge wasn't on Marquinhos, you would have Henderson push out. So that was a big thing. So PSG really struggled to play out the back. That was one issue. And if they dropped off a bit deeper, Liverpool, what would happen is that again, which midfielder is going to take control of the game? Which midfielder is going to get on the ball? Rabiot did do a good job in a tidy fashion, but again, not a lot of play in this game was stemmed through midfield, a lot of misplaced passes, and that was a big issue. So for Liverpool, it was about how are they going to create chances. In the first 10 minutes, they were the team on top. A lot of it stemmed through winning corner kicks, getting set pieces, loose balls not cleared, leading to shots on goal. But when you think about it, James Milner was key. Him and Henderson did play a big role, often breaking up play in midfield, so that was really key for Liverpool. But Milner often dropped off deeper. He tried to get runners in behind. He tried to play Salah in at one point. Kimpembe intercepted, and that did lead to a PSG break, so that didn't work out in Liverpool's favor. There was another opportunity where Milner dropped off deeper again, something like Di Maria did, and we'll get to that in a bit, clipping a ball in behind. You saw Mane try to run across Thiago Silva, but Thiago Silva tracked it well to ensure that he could couldn't get across. So that was pivotal. And then you think about Salah getting in behind Bernat. Bernat struggled in his opener for PSG against Saint-Etienne a few nights prior, and here again Salah was getting in behind him, shrugging him off the ball. There was one time where he was played in, and what happened here was that Salah was able, well, it stemmed from Liverpool winning the ball in midfield off Marquinhos. Mane picked up the ball in the channel, played it in behind for Salah. Bernat tracked him. He was shrugged off, and what happened here was that Sturridge was breaking in on goal, but Thomas Meunier came across and poked the effort away from goal. But when you think about it in a nutshell, Liverpool never really created a lot of chances from open play that forced Areola into big saves. Again, the opener stemmed from a wide cross from Alexander-Arnold, who was able to deliver the cross into the box. It wasn't met by Mane, and it came back to Robertson, who wasn't closed down quick enough by Meunier. And what happened here was that you have the two center backs. Sturridge just makes a dart ahead of Kimpembe, and Marquinhos was there. Just makes a quick dart, nods the effort into the net. Liverpool are up 1-0. And again, when you look at the build up to the second goal, it also stems from the fact that Bernat, again, looking to press Milner, who picked up a loose ball and clipped it instantly into that channel. Wijnaldum gets onto it. Bernat's tracking back, jogging back. He eventually fouls him, and Liverpool are up 2-0, courtesy of a James Milner penalty. But you think about their first half as a whole, they pressed well to ensure that PSG couldn't build out the back. They dropped off deeper, and PSG lacked. They really missed Verratti. They really missed Thiago Motta, players who are comfortable on the ball, that could play through the press, that can dictate the tempo of the game, because they had no control. Di Maria struggled. Rabiot took time to get into the game. Marquinhos isn't that player. And again, when he's dropping into more of a defensive three, it never really helped PSG in terms of building out the back. But when you look at it as a whole, Liverpool went into the half 2-1, but again, they started off the game well, but not creating enough chances, pressing pretty well. You could say they were worthy of the halftime lead, but PSG has something to say about it, and they didn't do as bad as many thought in the first half. So then we get to PSG trying to find a goal against Liverpool. Not as easy as it should have been, based on the fact that they didn't really have any creators in midfield. So they really struggled to bypass Liverpool's bank of 5 when they did drop into that. And again, when I said when Marquinhos drops a bit deeper, they are outnumbered in midfield. So that never really worked out in their favor. When you think about PSG and what they try to do as a nutshell, you can gripe that the front three is a bit too narrow at times. Neymar and Mbappe dropping off a bit narrow. Throughout the season, they have played a more of a 4-2-3-1, and what it was is that Neymar is behind the striker, and they have Di Maria also narrow, and what they want is they want the fullbacks to push forward and to provide the width. Here they went with the 4-3-3, and again, Neymar and Mbappe are narrow to start the game. And how are they going to get forward? Because they can't get the ball into the fullbacks, and even when Liverpool are to drop off, that outlet is still blocked off for them. Nothing really going their way. PSG, when they didn't have the ball, they obviously had to have the shuttlers push out, and that was a big problem for them, because when Liverpool were getting forward, what would happen was that Neymar and Mbappe weren't looking to really track back, so that offered more of a threat for Liverpool to get their fullbacks forward. And if they just moved the ball a bit quicker, they would have been able to really shift them out of position, because you have Rabiot having to push out to Robertson, you have Di Maria having to push out to Alexander-Arnold. That's not as easy as done. Whereas for Liverpool, when they had dropped off, this is the shape that they would take. They would ensure that nothing could really go through the midfield. And what happened here was that Neymar ended up being the catalyst to what they did best. He ended up having to drop a bit deeper to pick up the ball. He did in the opening minutes, where from a wider position, he had pushed out, he had beat Arnold, he had ran across Milner and Henderson. He even evaded Mane before trying to slide in Mbappe, but the pass was a bit too heavy. But again, as we get on into the match, drops off a bit deeper, picks up the ball, looks to find an outlet. He finds Mbappe in a narrow position, which means that Robertson has to stick to him. He plays the ball out to Meunier, who does get forward, delivers a cross into the box. It evades everyone, but it actually got cleared by Gomez, fell to Di Maria. Di Maria pulls it back to Neymar, who was able to get past Alexander-Arnold. He fired a shot on goal. The rebound fell to Cavani, but he couldn't really guide his effort in. That was a warning sign for them. There was another opportunity where that same play did occur, and it was Neymar again looking to find Meunier, pushing forward to deliver the cross into the box. That time he found, again, Mbappe, switches it out to Meunier, but however, Van Dijk gets across to break that up. When you think about it, Neymar was the link. He was dropping off a bit deeper. He was pushing forward, but we saw what they wanted to do. There was another opportunity. When we look at the build-up, after they had fallen down to 2-0, we see what PSG are trying to do, and they finally get it to work. So when you look at the build-up to Meunier's opener, it stems from Rabiot, and what happens here is that Rabiot's able to locate space in between Milner and in between Mane. So Rabiot finds that space to Meunier. What happens here is that Robertson is too slow to get across because Mbappe's in that narrow role. You have Cavani here trying to get in behind Arnold and Gomez. Cross goes in. It goes a bit over. It's overhit. Falls to Arnold. Cavani chases it. Cavani shrugs him off. He ends up playing it to Di Maria. And what happens here is as they drop off, you have Henderson dropping off into there, and you have Arnold, and then you have Sturridge there. So with all that being said, now you have Di Maria on the ball. You have everyone narrow. Bernat is pushing forward, and that's key. So Bernat's pushing forward, slides the ball to Bernat. Bernat gets on the ball. That forces Arnold out. Now he quickly gets it back to Di Maria because he's not able to get the cross, and that was one of the big problems at Saint-Etienne when they played them in their 4-0 win, and he pushes it back. The cross is into the box for Cavani. It ends up hitting off Robertson and falling to Meunier, who finishes superbly. But again, what PSG were trying to do was trying to get their fullbacks forward if they couldn't get the balls into the forwards. Because when Liverpool did drop off, when Liverpool kept their narrow shape, what happened here was that they couldn't get the ball into those narrow spaces for Cavani, for Mbappe, for Neymar, and that was a big problem. Henderson and Milner made several interceptions, several last-ditch tackles in that first half and in the second half. And that was a big problem for them. And then we look at one more chance, and again, it kind of sums up Liverpool just kind of fading off towards the end of the half. And that's been one of the key characteristics for this Klopp side, is that they start halves well, but they don't really finish them off well. And that's due to energy levels. And again, it's Mane a bit higher, and what happens here is that Neymar picks up the ball. He's able to locate Meunier again, and what happens here is that, again, Liverpool's line is a bit higher. There's no space, and Mane here isn't picking him up, so he's able to get forward. Neymar clips the ball over the defense for Meunier, who's looking to play the pullback in instantly, but he guides it up into the air, and nothing works out there. But when you think about PSG as a whole, struggle to obviously break through the midfield, but with Neymar dropping deep, with him being able to run past markers like Henderson, like Milner in deeper positions, find Meunier pushing forward, locate those little gaps, have Mbappe's positioning, pull out Robertson so that Meunier can get forward. PSG created chances, and instead of going down into the half 2-0, they got another goal that really helped them out and didn't put the game to bed at halftime, and they created a few more chances that probably should have led to goals. So then we get to the second half. It was pretty cagey. A lot of mistakes were made, and it was very quiet. It was a bit shocking that PSG never really tried to get the equalizer. They never really looked like they wanted to push forward and get the goal. They dropped off a bit deeper into more of a 4-5-1, possibly to play on the counterattack, but even in their body language, just kind of going with the motions. Neymar not looking to drive past markers. Were they tired? Were they disinterested? What was the issue there? But then again, Liverpool never really created any chances prior to the final 25 minutes when PSG started to create chances. So that was a big problem for them. There was one key moment where you saw Milner kind of dragging out Di Maria, and what happens there is that he just made a darting run, or he stayed narrow, and that created space for Alexander-Arnold to push forward. And why was that key? Because on one of the chances, he delivered a cross into the box for Sturridge that Sturridge should have converted, but he nodded a tame effort at Areola. Why is that key? Well, when you think about PSG, when they drop off off into that 4-5-1. Like I said, Mbappe, Neymar not really looking to get back, so that means that they have to push out into those wide areas, the shuttlers in Rabiot and Di Maria. With that being said, with Milner pulling him out of position, there's more space for Arnold to be a threat and deliver cross into the box. We know a lot of teams have looked to do that in the past based on the fact, in this season alone, based on the fact that Liverpool don't have many target men, but Daniel Sturridge offers an aerial threat, and that wasn't what PSG would have wanted, but that did happen. However, what happened after that was that Firmino came on for Sturridge. Firmino didn't really impact the game, although he did score the winning goal. And then we looked at PSG making their changes, bringing on Choupo-Moting for Di Maria, bringing on Draxler for Cavani. They moved to a 4-2-3-1 with Rabiot and Marquinhos sitting at the base. What happened prior to that was that Di Maria found Neymar between the lines. He had broken forward and he slid it to Meunier, who forced Robertson into a last-ditch block. But now we look at how PSG were getting forward. We see they have the direct threats. Choupo-Moting was trying to peel off with Mbappe to get onto a long ball. Draxler offers dynamism, and he has quick feet that could evade challenges. But we think about Neymar. He was the key man in the first half and the second half again. But what happens here is that it stems from Mo Salah making two bad passes that'll first allow Neymar to get the ball in behind his marker, which is Henderson, from Rabiot. He's able to drive at goal. Mbappe ends up pushing out wide. He tries to get it to him, but Milner tracks well, and Milner nudges him off the ball, and safety is there for Liverpool. So that was one opportunity. And then you go back the other way. It's Mane finding Salah in the box. What happens here is that he ends up running off Bernat to get the ball back. What happens? Runner comes across. Marquinhos makes the block. He picks up the ball. Kimpembe clips it over Kimpembe, but fires his effort wide of the net. That was Liverpool's chance in that minute span, and then they go back the other way. Mo Salah gives up the ball again. Neymar's found. Neymar runs at goal, runs at Van Dijk. Doesn't really beat him, but what happens is that the ball deflects off Neymar and falls into the path of Mbappe, who fires his effort into the net. Between that, yes, PSG had another chance that did stem from Neymar finding Draxler in a 2v3, ended up making the wrong decision, had his shot blocked, and then the winner from Firmino. Mbappe, why are you trying to beat Milner around the box, loses the ball, and then eventually Firmino finishes off the game with a fine finish, and Liverpool go top of the group and start their Champions League campaign in fine fashion. But let me know what you guys think. Can PSG pull this off? Is Tuchel the right man? Can they go far in the Champions League with this side? And what about Liverpool? We saw how good they can be in spurts, but can they replicate last season's form and return to the finals? Meet me in the comments below. Don't forget I upload videos every day, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And that was your daily dose of the interviews.